Hello, welcome to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading 2 Samuel 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said unto Absalom, Let me now choose out 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue after David this night. And I will come upon him while he is weary and weak handed, and will make him afraid, and all the people that are with him shall flee, and I will smite the king only. And I will bring back all the people unto thee. The man whom thou seekest is as if all returned, so all the people shall be in peace. And the saying pleased Absalom well, and all the elders of Israel. Then said Absalom, Call now Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear likewise what he saith. And when Hushai was come to Absalom, Absalom spake unto him, saying, Ahithophel hath spoken after this manner. Shall we do after his saying? If not, speak thou. And Hushai said unto Absalom, The counsel that Ahithophel hath given is not good at this time. For, said Hushai, thou knowest thy father and his men, that they be mighty men, and they be chafed in their minds, as a bear robbed of her whelps in the field. And thy father is a man of war, and will not lodge with the people. Behold, he is hid now in some pit, or in some other place, and it will come to pass, when some of them be overthrown at the first, that whosoever heareth it will say, There is a slaughter among the people that follow Absalom. And he also that is valiant, whose heart is as the heart of a lion, shall utterly melt. For all Israel knoweth that thy father is a mighty man, and they which be with him are valiant men. Therefore I counsel that all Israel be generally gathered unto thee, from Dan even to Beersheba, as the sand that is by the sea for multitude, and that thou go to battle in thine own person. So shall we come upon him in some place where he shall be found, and we will light upon him as the dew falleth on the ground, and of him and of all the men that are with him there shall not be left so much as one. Moreover, if he be gotten into a city, then shall all Israel bring ropes to that city, and we will draw it to the river, until there be not one small stone found there. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, The counsel of Hushai the Archite is better than the counsel of Ahithophel. For the Lord had appointed to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, to the intent that the Lord might bring evil upon Absalom. Then Hushai unto Zadok. Then said Hushai unto Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, Thus and thus did Ahithophel counsel Absalom and the elders of Israel, and thus of thus have I counseled. Now, therefore, send quickly, and tell David, saying, Lodge not this night in the plains of the wilderness, but speedily pass over, lest the king be swallowed up, and all the people that are with him. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed by in Rogel, for they might not be seen to come into the city. And a wench went and told them, and they went and told King David. Nevertheless, a lad saw them and told Absalom, but they went both of them away quickly and came to a man's house in Bahurim, which had a well in his court, whither they went down. And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth and spread ground corn thereon, and the thing was not known. And when Absalom's servants came to the woman to the house, they said, Where is Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said unto them, They be gone over the brook of water. And when they had sought and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, after they were departed, that they came up out of the well, and went and told King David, and said unto David, Arise, and pass quickly over the water, for thus hath Ahithophel counseled against you. Then David arose, and all the people that were with him, and they passed over Jordan. By the morning light there lacked not one of them that was not gone over Jordan. And when Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed, he saddled his ass and arose and gat him home to his house, to his city, and put his household in order, and hanged himself and died, and was buried in the sepulchre of his father. Then David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab, which Amasa was a man's son, whose name was Ithra, in Israelites, that went in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead, and it came to pass, when David was come to Mahanaim, that Shobi, the son of Nahash, of Reba, of the children of Ammon, and Machir, the son of Amiel of Lodabar, and Barzillai, the Gileadite of Rogelim, brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and parched corn and beans and lentils and parched pulse and honey and butter and sheep and cheese of kine for David and for the people that were with him to eat. For they said, the people is hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. The previous chapter, 2 Samuel 16, David flees his own kingdom as his son Absalom takes over. As he is traveling, he encounters Ziba, who is Mephibosheth's servant. Ziba brings food to David and his men. Hushai, David's friend from the previous chapter, tells Absalom his loyalty follows the ruler of Israel, not David. Ahithophel advises Absalom to sleep with the 10 concubines David left in his home. The current chapter, 2 Samuel 17, Ahithophel, David's highly regarded advisor, tells Absalom he wants to end David's life. Hushai advises Absalom to make a better plan. Ahithophel ends his life after realizing that Absalom has taken Hushai's advice over his. The two messengers assigned to warn David must hide in a well to avoid Absalom's men. Summarizing 2 Samuel 17, in verses 1 and 2, we learn that the character Ahithophel wants to take 12,000 men, hunt, and end the life of David, who is Absalom's father. How we get to this point. In chapter 13, David has a son, Amnon. Absalom has another sister, Tamar. So Amnon has this fixation with Tamar. He sexually assaults her. David does nothing about it for 2 years. Absalom organizes the murder of Amnon, who was Tamar's assaulter. After that, Absalom flees the kingdom and he lives in a different territory for 3 years. In chapter 14, he returns to the kingdom. But in chapter 15, Absalom stages a hostile takeover of David's kingdom. So David has to flee by the time we get to 2 Samuel 16. So David has to flee. He's in the wilderness. He's running barefoot. And he's the king. He's been anointed by God. So now that we're in the middle of this hostile takeover where Absalom has taken is now using the counsel of Ahithophel. Ahithophel was David's his advice was so important to both David and Absalom in chapter 16 verse 23 that the Bible tells us a word from this man was like getting a word from God. So the fact that this man who David really trusted is opening up the new chapter saying, look, let's just go and uh, end David's life. Me and 12,000 men. So just want to illustrate how treacherous this is to tell his son, I know I just worked for your father and he trusted me, but now that you're king, let me hunt your dad down. It's like he always felt that way. Just wow. But these types of incidents didn't occur before we had kings and this style of leadership. Uh, I would even venture to say we didn't see this much messiness in Saul's kingdom. But then again, Saul didn't have all these wives and all these children and all this energy around him. So we didn't see Saul every time we turn around having somebody betraying him. So anyway, Ahithophel wants to hunt and end the life of David. Absalom says, "You know what? This sounds like good advice, but you know what? Let's also ask Hushai." So Hushai in verses 7 to 13 says, you know what? It would be a better idea to organize a large number of men, battle David where we find him. Because also in verse 9, if you lose, your father has a lot of experience being in war, hiding outside in the caves. You know, if we start to lose some of our troops and you just became king, it's going to look like slaughter follows you around, or, you don't have enough of a kingdom to defend yourself properly. So let's not go into war too soon, especially with your father who's extremely experienced. And there's a piece of information 14 that I just want to point out. Absalom chooses the advice of Hushai. And in verse 14, we also learn the Lord had decreed Ahithophel's advice be undermined in order to bring Absalom's ruin. So we already learn in chapter 16:23 that Ahithophel's advice was like asking from a word from God. And we also seen in chapter 15, verse 31, when David finds out that this man has betrayed him and is now advising his son while he's taking over the kingdom, David says, Lord, please turn Ahithophel's counsel into foolishness. So here we get to verse 14, chapter 17, verse 14. And we see that the Lord has undermined this man's advice. So this is over. By the time we get to 14, this Absalom asking for advice from both Hushai and Ahithophel, that's over by the time we get to 14. Now we're at a different spot with 15 and 16. Hushai, Zadok, and Abiathar are all David's uh, intel. These are David's informants, and we see this in chapter 15, verses 32 through 36, where David told them, you would serve me better if you became an informant. Let me know what's going on. '15 and 16, Hushai tells Zadok and Abiathar what happened with advising Absalom and to tell David where to go to avoid uh, Absalom's army. So now we get to verses 17 to 21. These are different events. So the first event was pertaining to Absalom getting advice from Hushai and Ahithophel. The second part is the three informants, Hushai, Zadok, and Abiathar, getting together to summarize what happened and get the information together for David. Now, 17 to 21, the two messengers, we're now learning what happens with them. Jonathan and Ahimaaz are some messengers. They get some information about King David. But in verse 18, someone else saw these two men and they told Absalom. So they left. They had to go to a well of a man in this territory of Bahiram. They hid in the well. The wife covered it and, they were concealed. In verse 20, the servants, Absalom's servants who were alerted about these two guys, they came to the house looking for them. And the woman told them, yeah, we don't know where they are. So Ahimaaz and Jordan, the two messengers, they climbed out the well and they informed King David what happened. Verse 22 by itself is a different piece of information. Really should be its own paragraph. But okay, David and his people crossed into the Jordan. So that piece of information is just on what David did. When Ahithophel realized his advice had not been followed, he ended his own life by hanging himself. Verse 24 continues what happened in verse 22. David arrived at this territory by the time Absalom crossed the Jordan. So, continuing the information of David, the focus being on David in 22. 22, we're talking about David. 23, we're talking about Ahithophel, who ended his own life. Then we go back to David, where he arrived at a different place. Now, 25 and 26, we're talking about Absalom. And just okay, 25 and 26. Sorry. 25, Absalom had appointed Amasa, who is Amasa is Joab's cousin because Amasa's parents are Abigail and Ithra. And Abigail is Zariah's sister. Zariah is Joab's uh, father, Joab's parent. So instead of making Joab the war captain as he was when David was in leadership, now his cousin, uh, Amasa, is the army captain. Not quite sure what the significance of that is just yet, but that's what we know there in verse 25. Verse 26, Absalom camped, gives us their location. We get back to 27 and 29. The focus is back on David. So when David got to this territory, three different people, Shobi, Makir, and Barzali, they brought beds, dishes, food, condiments, because they knew that these people were hungry, exhausted, and thirsty. That is all we have for 2 Samuel 19. And thank you. This is what we have for 2 Samuel 17. Thank you for clicking on the video. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have a wonderful day.